This is Sportish.
Do it better.
This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish.
This is Sportish. Welcome in, everybody, here on For the Fans. Thursdays at 3 p.m. If you don't know what time it is right here, right now, or perhaps you're watching a random replay, or perhaps you're listening to this as a podcast, in which case now you know you can actually watch it and see what it looks like when we record it. Thursdays, 3 p.m. For the Fans, ftfnext.com. YouTube, that's a website I think is going to catch on. You got lots of access to our opinions. Who are we? I'm Geoff Brault. He's Dr. Keith Strudler, director of the School of Communication and Media at Montclair State University. Our producer, who you never see because he's actually never with us when we tape these episodes, is Mike Wallace. So that's who we are. We're a very small crew. And sometimes when you work very closely, Keith, with other people, you butt heads, right? There can be a little tension. And I hate to start the show on this note, but I have to look. We don't have an HR department to go through, so I have to bring it directly to the source. I have a workplace issue.
Okay, so is this a formal grievance you'd like to file?
Yeah, I'd like to lodge a formal grievance.
Okay. All right. This is a process. So I'll let me get the HR director on. Yes, speaking.
So we delineate duties in this podcast, and one of your duties.
I do almost everything.
So
and you show up.
I have a second grievance to file. One of the things that you do is you title and captions the wrong word, but you put a little synopsis up of each episode.
Yeah.
I think your synopsis, Keith, because I like to leave a little carrot before you get to the stick. I think your synopses are great. I think you do a wonderful job with the synopses of the episodes.
This is like the BBC Andrew Cotter when he's critiquing the dogs, his two dogs in the HR meeting. I feel so I do. And by the way, that's one of my jobs. I mean, we're not going to go through all the editing I do, because really that's more of a grievance for Michael Wallace. Why am I also producing the show? But that's fine. Continue. So I will take that. Doesn't sound like we have much of a grievance. That's more of a thank you.
Well, we haven't gotten to the titles yet, Keith. Now, I think the content of our titles, our episode titles, are great. Fine content. I like, we pick a funny line out of the show. How come every week I look and it's a different style? Like sometimes it's all lowercase. Sometimes there's no space between episode and the number. Sometimes there's a colon. Sometimes there isn't a colon. Why can't that be the same?
Yeah. Right. So you'd like to file that have you put that in writing?
And I would like to point out that this is one of the most important issues that I've ever confronted with anyone, not just with you.
Okay. This really bothers you. Because there's a couple solutions.
So this actually bothers me tremendously. I'm one of those people who, like, I will go into a hotel room, and if the picture on the wall isn't straight, I will straighten it. Like, I need clean lines and shapes.
So I have some solutions. One is you could do it yourself. Like, that's the first thing.
I can't, because I don't have the password to upload.
Because you also don't pay. You also don't pay the monthly fee. You don't pay the monthly fee for the podcast hosting site, which comes out of my pocket. That comes out of my pocket. So you know what? If I want to make some grammatical errors with my dollars, I darn well will. But you're welcome to assume those responsibilities if you like that. You could pay for the podcasting site, and then of course, make all the grammatical errors you'd like. So that's A. So you could do it yourself. That sounds like that's not a resolution that's amicable, right? Two, you could ignore them. That's the other thing you could do.
No. I made it 58 episodes. You don't understand how many episodes I needed to start this way. I made it 58 episodes, which if you or my therapist know me, know that is unbelievable that it's gotten to this point.
Well, your therapist is a god, and so your therapist has a place reserved in heaven. All right. So that's B. The third thing you could do is come over to my house when I'm doing this and keep me from watching reruns of House Hunters Internationals when I'm doing it, because my mind is not always fully aware of what's happening. The other thing is I know that I'm not consistent in my grammatical titles. I know that.
Well, that hurts me more. This is a sin of commission, not of omission.
I literally
You're doing this on purpose?
I can't remember if I put a period. So I can't remember if I'm capitalizing periods or not. And I start to think about it, and then I say, forget it. I'm just going to post it. So so here's my answer. So let me give you the formal. So is that your formal complaint? I just want to make sure.
That's my number one issue right now.
Here's the answer. HR. Yeah, we talked to Dr. Strudler, and the answer is he doesn't care. So I hope that's an amicable resolution to this grievance. That formally ends the grievance process on Sportish LLC. So
all right, now that I know how our grievance process works, it'll be interesting to see if when it comes time for me to do one of my duties, which is ending the show at the correct time, so you don't have to do any editing.
No,
whether I choose to care about that duty or not.
Well, see, interesting. It comes full circle because who's doing the editing? That's right. Me. You have such a limited job. I'm wondering if Michael Wallace is more integral to the show at this point. You have such a limited job. You have to start it and you have to end it and you have to feign that you're paying attention during the show. Those are the three things you have to do. You usually get one of them right. You start the show. Quite often you don't look like you're enjoying it while you're on, and you rarely, not only do you not finish when I want you to, because I know you know how to get out on time. I know. You've done a gazillion basketball games and you know how to get out on time. You're coming in and out of breaks. You know how to do this. You don't do this on purpose. You want to talk about wanton disregard for your coworkers? That's what this is. You're staring at me knowing that you're going to do this. And so I'm forced to do one of these. I'm forced to do this.
When you do that, that's when I take it longer. That's when I throw one more thing in there where I'm like, how many different podcast networks can I name just to make sure that he has to find 3 seconds to clip out of this episode? Maybe
if you could do your job, right? Maybe I'll do my job a little bit more professionally. So maybe if you could show some commitment, we'll see. But it bothers me that you've decided, because we have a jam-packed show today. There's a lot of big sports news, and you've chosen to use our 48 minutes, which is all we really get. And actually, let me take that back. 47:45. That's the only number for all the sport. We're going to take you inside the paywall here. The only number that matters on this show is 47:45. That's literally it. That's the only number. That's the only thing you have to think about. So I would like you to focus on that number. And we have a lot of things to do today. I'd rather not spend any more of our precious time and our viewers' precious time on this.
You're right. We shouldn't spend any more time on this because we do have a lot of sports topics to talk about. We have an American soccer team whose fan base beat back a name and identity change. We have a Chinese soccer team whose owners essentially demanded that his son be put on the field. We have an American football team who is resurrecting a star of the past to potentially be put into their mix. Yes, these are big stories that we have to get to, but Keith, there is none bigger than the one that we have to start with, which is we have been right all along. There are aliens among us, and the government is starting to confirm that. Whether it's Barack Obama or the United States Navy, rumblings have come out this past week, Keith, that we are not alone in the universe, and we here on Sportish have been on top of this story from the very beginning. And I think it's high time that we get credit for sounding the alarm about our new galactic overlords. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if this is going to change our workflow at all. I don't know if we have to send the content into a different email address, if it's something at Aliens I don't know. Where do you think these, I won't call them people because I guess technically they're not. Boy, isn't that xenophobic? Isn't that Earth-centric of me, right? to start calling these aliens people. Like, how disrespectful was I, right? Boy, that just, speaking of HR, that just reeks of sensitivity training that we're going to have to go through. Am I going to have to go through more sensitivity training now when I'm working for Aliens? They're like, Keith, they don't like to be referred to as in that way. Because I go through so much training. So, yeah, it's not surprising. But where do you think they're from? Like, if you had to pick where they're from.
Outer space. What do you think? What do you think? They're from Detroit?
No, I'm just saying, wouldn't that be funny if some Earthlings went and shot themselves up into space so then they could make believe that they're aliens? That is very meta.
What if all along everybody who lives in Detroit has been an alien and they've just been playing the long game, blending in as humans, and now they're finally ready to make their reveal?
That would explain a lot. It would explain a lot. It would explain, why the lines are so bad. I I don't know, but I'm actually not worried about, I'm not worried about the aliens. I'm not worried about them. I think if they wanted to cause us harm, they would have done it a long time ago. Granted, the plot of War of the Worlds would suggest otherwise, that they're willing to wait this thing out. So they're just sitting ready, lying ready. But I think if they wanted to really do harm, they would have done it. What if they're watching the show right now? What if they are 3 o'clock, they stop whatever they're doing? That's 3 o'clock Eastern, so they'd have to be.
I mean, I'd welcome them as anyone gets our viewership numbers up.
Yeah. I think they're undercounting too. What if we're literally getting millions and millions of views on another planet and we're not getting credit? Like, we could be monetizing all along. Like, and they've been ordering all the products that get advertised and we are not getting credit.
Like how David Hasselhoff was huge in Germany.
Yeah, exactly. What if we're giant and Neptune?
You talk about Earth-centric, right? And a lot of people who believe aliens, they go, well, I mean, it would be ludicrous to think that we're alone in the universe. They only ever make accommodation for there to be 2 planets, ours and the aliens. They never think that the aliens would just skip right over our, like they would take one look and go, oh, no. There's another rest stop, couple galaxies down the road. We're going to pull over there. It's always like they're coming to see us. Why do we think we're so great?
They don't have milkshakes on that planet.
When you're driving down the highway and the rest stop only has a Roy Rogers in it, and you're like, oh no, we're gonna wait. Also, another sponsor we won't get.
Do you ever do the stops where no one? Well, you don't, because you travel. You're alone a lot of times. When you have when you've got a big family thing in a car, and you end up stopping at like 4 places. Like, all right, we're stopping for lunch. What do you want? And everyone says something different, and so you just find yourself doing a shoehorn of every restaurant.
I mean, I've never done that for the reasons that you espouse. I also don't think I ever would do that. I think, it would be where I would like to eat, and everyone else could either fall in line or we pack some granola bars in the back.
Well, the snacks never last even to the first restaurant. You're like, these will tide us over.
And by the way, you never want them. No one's ever been on a road trip and be like, give me some of that beef jerky, as opposed to, oh, let's go get a milkshake from wherever.
Hey, can I sneak in my story about Phil Simms?
So I was going to save it for the end. It was
all right, forget it. Teaser
thing.
Oh boy. There's a tease. Here's a tease, folks. You're going to get a Phil Simms, New Jersey story. Just get ready. Stick around, folks.
Oh, I was going to tease. I was even had a better tease queued up. I was going to tease it by saying, guess which wife of an NFL Hall of Famer.
I'm going to ask you a very serious question. Do you think anyone who's watching at this point in the show is going to stick around to the end?
I think they are now. If you asked me that 45 seconds ago, it might have been a different answer.
Oh, mission accomplished. Mission accomplished.
All right. Big story. I had a little trouble drinking there out of my beautiful Sportish mug. Still a little upset that you broke one of the mugs. Now the broken mug isn't even in the background of your set anymore. What happened to that?
I gave it to the cat. She earned it. What if I made that her bowl? What if I took that and made it her drinking bowl because she loved it so much? Could you get to the show?
So Keith Strudler really wanted to talk about this story, and I would prefer not to give any more airtime to the billionaire owners of sports teams. It's been well documented that I am anti-billionaire, whereas Keith Strudler believes that they are our saviors and will take care of us all as long as we just give them more money. There was a win for the little guy this week in Columbus, Ohio. Oh mio, Columbus, Ohio, where the Columbus Crew, an inaugural member of Major League Soccer, their fan groups fought back against a proposed rebrand of naming the club Columbus SC. They wanted to emphasize Columbus, de-emphasize Crew. They wanted to change the logo. They wanted to give it a more European flair. And the fan base, which is one of the most rabid fan bases in MLS, really probably in American sports, period. I mean, these people love the Crew. They fought back against it, and they got the ownership in a meeting, and they basically got an apology from the ownership and said, look, all right, we hear you. We don't want to do this anymore. A win for the little guy, Keith, and in the sport of soccer. It's great to hear. We're 2-0 this month. We got the Super League gone. All we had to do was some riots in Europe, and now diplomacy, a boardroom meeting, and the Columbus Crew will drop the SC.
Yeah, and this is, by the way, the same franchise that a few years ago basically said we're taking off to Austin, and so this ownership is really in. So you might call it a win for the little guy. Meanwhile, the little guy keeps spending on an ownership group that has shown them how little they care about them. That is almost now making it a point to torture them. Like, we're going to go away. Oh, we'll stay. Hey, we're going to change the name, despite the fact that you bought all these shirts after we won an MLS championship. Okay, we will. If you show us just how much you love us. So yes, the little man, these people that you espouse to love so much, you are a man of the people. You are a man of the people. Meanwhile, not long ago, we were having a conversation about the amount of money that you'd like to have a little bit later in life. So while you are a man of the people,
I am essentially a Bruce Springsteen album. Like, that is the kind of hard scrabble, salt of the earth person that I am. So look, we're used to it, right? We're used to people like you in your ivory towers looking down on us working folk.
Yeah.
And so nothing you can say can hurt me.
Yeah, you're working folk. When's the last time you mowed a lawn?
What? I pay people to do that.
I mean, we could make this an entire show about the vast ocean that lies between you and Bruce Springsteen, who ironically is actually very rich. So I guess both of you are phonies. That said, all right, I can't say anything bad about Bruce. I'm the Jersey guy. But all of that said, it's so, yes, there may be this perception that they kind of won over, I suppose. But in the end of the day, look, the Columbus Crew ownership has just reinforced kind of their fan adoration. Now, what's I think kind of interesting though here is first of all, I'm not exactly sure why they did this at this particular moment. I mean, you illuminated some of the ideas, but it's interesting that, American soccer has tried to become a bit more kind of global in its presentation. And for the most part, American fans they're not asking for it. They're kind of like, no, we're comfortable with the Crew. That's our team. And so I think in some way, the MLS has done a pretty good job at figuring out how to thrive. And in some cases, I guess thrive would, do quite well in a sports landscape that wasn't really designed for them, right? The stadiums weren't necessarily built for them. We didn't have that kind of understanding of the game. We certainly didn't extra time and all these kind of crazy things like that. Tie games. Games. Yep. The one that was, I think, a bridge too far was the playoffs where you play two games and 1-1 means one of the teams wins. Like, that one is still very hard.
The aggregate.
A tough one. The aggregate. I mean,
Americans do not like the aggregate.
The aggregate is crazy. Now, can we agree upon this? I was just watching Mexican soccer playoffs, right? And we were watching the aggregate. By the way, you know who's not friendly on a last second goal loss? Mexican soccer fans. Like, Elliot, we were watching a game. Elliot was like, do they always throw cups at the end of the game? I was like, oh, yes, they do. Yes, they do. So, but I just, the aggregate doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense because it really basically says the game is meaningless. And then, by the way, let's say you get to an aggregate and then it's a tie score. It's like 4 goals and 4 goals. It then goes to the team that scored more goals on the road. So the aggregate, it's this bizarre way. Like, it's almost as if there's no integrity to winning a game in soccer during the playoffs. Isn't that weird?
I like the aggregate. I think it's fair. I think it makes sense.
Then why don't they just play? Why don't they just play straight through? Why don't they just play?
What I like about the aggregate and what I like about away goals is it's harder to play on the road than it is to play at home. And the aggregate, essentially, you do it so you have 2 matches, 1 at each home stadium. Like, for a sport that doesn't do series, and unless soccer wants to go and do a full 3-match series where it's, home, high seed or whatever, if you're only going to do 2, it's the fairest way to do it.
I know. It's just, why not do 3? Why not do 3 and give the advantage to the higher seed?
Welcome to how the NBA ended up with every team in the playoffs.
It's true.
This is exactly how it started.
This is the creep. This is exactly what happens.
They're like, you think 8 per conference is enough? Well, we're getting 10 in there. Here's how we'll do it.
How many teams are in the conference? All of them. So I get it. But going back to the original kind of the original topic, it's interesting that the Crew fans wanted to kind of keep what is a very much an American distinction, right? This idea that we're going to have a team name like you'd see an NFL team or any other kind of sports league. So I think this is one of those cases where you have to kind of listen to your fans. You have to understand what your fans want. And B, American soccer it's American. And for all, the thing, look, when you're sitting in an American soccer match, you're sitting next to people who are very likely going to a Yankees game next week. I mean, I know we were at an MLS game. We went to NYCFC, and it was, by the way, it was glorious to be at a live. I mean, it was glorious to be at a live sporting event, right? Not glorious to search for, of course, parking at Yankee Stadium, but glorious to be at a Yankees game or at an MLS game at Yankee Stadium. But we definitely heard people who were sitting there. They were soccer fans, but they were also talking about going to Yankees games. So I think you have to navigate that terrain a little bit.
I have never gone to a live soccer match. I would like to. It's not
what?
I've never been to one. I mean, I've been to live, small, college soccer matches, but I've never been to a professional. We
didn't go to one.
Buy a ticket soccer match. No, never. I've never been. I'd like to. I almost found my way into U.S. women's national team game when they played in the Red Bull Stadium, but it didn't work out.
Why don't you come down?
I just haven't.
Why don't you come down? Come down. Come down to Montclair State. The Red Bulls 2 play right on campus. That's fun. That's
Red Bulls 2.
Yes.
What is it, like the Fast and the Furious franchise?
No, that's their second tier. That's the U.S. You really don't know much about American soccer, do you?
I do. I was making a joke. I was going to make a ludicrous joke until you were like, oh, you don't know. Of course I know. I understand how it works. They have a second tier.
Yeah, they play right on campus. It's fun. That's fun. No, I'll tell you what. I love the MLS games there. It's great. You're in and out in a couple of hours.
You mentioned.
And then you get I'll tell you what else. Yankee Stadium, you get a healthy serving of cheese fries.
Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Yeah.
If the COVID didn't get you.
Well, that's what people are like. I won't take that shot, but I'll take that processed cheese. Come on. That cheese will kill you. I guarantee you, I can find a scientist tomorrow that will tell me exactly how much of that cheese you have to eat to die. And it's probably less than you think.
Before we put a bow on this Columbus Crew MLS story, you mentioned that the last time the fans won over the ownership of Columbus Crew was to keep the team in Columbus, not to go to Austin. And so you know who's the big winner in that situation? The same person who's the big winner in every situation.
Matthew McConaughey.
The
next governor of the state of Texas.
Who's now part owner of Austin FC and possibly considering running for the governor of Texas. So Keith Strudler, as the show's representative of the Lone Star State, how do we feel about Matthew McConaughey potentially becoming governor?
We don't hate it. I mean, let's hear the platform. I know some people think this is it. This is the end. I say this is the beginning. Isn't this what we worked for all along, right? Everyone hates politicians. Find me someone who doesn't think that politicians suck. Now find me someone that doesn't think that Matthew McConaughey is great. Tell me how this is a bad decision. So, by the way, how disappointed were the Crew athletes who, when they found out, like, guys, I got some good news. We're not going to Austin. We're going to stay right here in Columbus, Ohio.
As someone who's been to both cities, Austin is better. It just is. Apologies,
good news, guys,
to Ohio.
We'll keep the housing prices low. We're going to stay right here in Columbus. Good news. Ohio State fans, good news.
While we're talking about soccer owners, there is an owner of a second-tier team, a Red Bulls 2, if you will, in the nation of China, who, and I like to think is what we would all do if we owned a professional sports team, has essentially has called down from the owner's box and demanded that the coach put his son into the game, who was a player on the team. And you would think, all right, I mean, I kind of understand that. Last week we were talking about, we watched the Formula One documentary on Netflix. Those teams are just basically started so fathers can buy their sons a seat in Formula One. Yes, we're looking at you, Stroll family. But there was a picture widely circulating around the internet of the son who was essentially demanded by the team owner that that son play. Let's just say that he is of large carriage, Keith. He does not look the way you would expect a professional soccer player to look. Is this an owner overstepping, or is this a father doing exactly what a father should do if they have enough money to own a professional soccer team?
What is the point of owning a professional soccer team? You cannot provide opportunities. So now I think that he had the weight. It was 125 kilograms.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's about 270. Is that about? Am I right on that?
I don't think it's that much, just based on the.
No,
I don't know how it converts. But
a kilogram is 2.2 pounds, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, the player did not look 270 pounds. Like it did not look that large.
Are we gonna talk about the thing we were talking about earlier as part of this story in terms of? I mean, would you categorize him as obese?
Again, not knowing like his height or medical history. It'd be difficult to say, but as mentioned, when you look at the photo, he is quite clearly a person of large carriage. He does not look the way a professional. If you think in your mind what a professional soccer player looks like, this person does not look that way.
And soccer is, I think, if I may say so, maybe some of the best bodies in all of sport. Right? They're very fit.
Okay.
Oh, if you thought about that,
a comment that might have been more appropriate. We were on at midnight. It's the middle of the day, Keith.
It's true. It's true, though. It's true. They probably have some of the nicest bodies in all of sport. I mean, they're very, they run a lot, but they're somewhat muscular. It's it's a well-proportioned body. It's a well-proportioned frame. Tip of the cap to you, soccer players, right? So
that might have been the creepiest 45 seconds in Sportish history. I mean, I understand that that's a difficult bar, but you may have cleared it. Because I mean, I gave you the way out, and you were just like, no, I'm going back in to explain myself.
In the front door, I open this Pandora's box, and I'm going to sit in it. So, regardless, now we don't know what the soccer player's weight was before COVID. It could be that months in quarantine were unkind. But I do believe it's a kilogram is 2.2 pounds. So I think you may be under. Now, maybe he's 7'4", so maybe he's a Mark Eaton type character. But so look, you have to wonder what the conversations are with the other players in the locker room when he's not around. They're like, oh God, we're going to play. So Frank's going to play today.
Just did a quick calculation. 126 kilograms is 277 pounds.
I'm right on.
But now I have, when you see the picture, there's just no way. That's not a 300-pound person.
It's not. It's 277 pounds.
Well, but it isn't. So I think I'm now starting to think that the kilograms that we were told that this person weighed, that might have been off.
I think you sometimes, you know what? I've told you I'm pretty good at guessing people's weight. Like I've told you that. Something I'm good at.
A lot of people don't know this. Keith actually put himself through college as the person at that carnival game where he would guess people's weights. And if he got it within 5 pounds, they would get to keep the $5.
Oh, I'm pretty good at this. So, I mean, honestly, like you have to figure that's tough. That's tough if you're on the team. And if you're the coach and you're like, all right, it's a tie game. Who's going in? Who's taking the kick? So here's the problem. Here's the problem.
Okay.
And I think I mentioned this to you before. And we disagree on this. I'm going to try to be, this isn't going to come off well. And we know this. And you want me to move. You actually want me to say this. But in soccer,
here we go.
Look, it's common to play a person down, a man down in soccer. You get a red card and you play 10 instead of 11. You can play well a man down in soccer. It's happened before. This isn't like hockey where you're when you're shorthanded in hockey, you're in trouble. Like a shorthanded goal in hockey is almost impossible, right? It has to be a real crazy breakaway. You can't win 5-on-4 in hockey. You can win 10 and 11 in soccer, depending on the makeup of your team, because you adjust, right? You lose someone who's playing left wing, you adjust. You have someone new playing that, you adjust your spacing. You go from a 4-3, 4-3-4 to a 4-3-3, whatever it is. Your formation shifts. So you adapt to take on that space. If you have a particularly large, and let's assume that at his size, there are two things that are going to be somewhat limited. his speed and his endurance. Two very critical aspects to getting to where the ball is going to be, right? So there are two ways to play soccer. Is you kick it to where the person is, bad way to play soccer, because people can figure that out, or kick it to where you want the person to be, right? That's how it works. Same thing in the NFL.
Thanks, Jurgen Klinsmann.
That person of large carriage is not going to be very far from where he is when you want to kick them the ball. So that person now is taking up a lot of space on your field. He's basically rendering part of your field inoperable. The other thing that the other team will figure out is you can now work around that person. That person is not going to be able to defend anything in that area. So what I have said is I would rather play with 10 people than with one person who is extremely unfit. And you disagree with that.
Of course I disagree with that, because to your point, and I will assume that your point is correct when you say you can play well with 10 men. Yeah, so if you can play well with 10 men, then I can play well with 10 men plus one person of large carriage, and that is only a benefit. While you see only negatives to the situation, it's only a benefit. We'll play as though we have 10 men, but we will also have one rotund player who is out there just wreaking havoc, just being roly-poly, just out there, maybe it's a decoy, some kind of distraction, but we're not going to put them in a crucial situation, right? They're not going to be the number 9 or the number 11. We're not fools. We're not going to have them at center back. We're not putting them in goal, right? We're going to play a 10-man.
You should put him in goal. It should put him in goal. At least he's a wall. That's the one place you should put him.
We're going to play a 10-man strategy with one bonus player, and we're going to win.
This is like you get if you buy a meal, they give you a free hot dog and they just throw it on the plate.
It's kind of exactly like that. Like, you know what he is? You know what he is? You know what my 11th player is? He's an amuse-bouche. When you aren't expecting it. You don't require it, but it's going to make the meal. It's certainly not going to make the meal worse. And if it's not good, it's not going to ruin the meal at all. You're going to have the same meal that you had before, plus this little extra that you weren't expecting.
I feel so much better thinking I was going to be the offensive one in this conversation.
I didn't say anything that's offensive. I said my person has value, right? I gave him a fun name, amuse-bouche.
But I understand, yes, a 10-on-10 where you just throw a large guy out kind of roam the pasture. Obviously, that's no different, right? Although it will get in the way at some point. Someone's going to get hurt. And we've made it sound like, with all apologies to everyone, you made it sound like we literally just put a cow in the middle of the field. It's just kind of running around eating grass. Like, that's how you made this sound. I'm saying my point is if this person is actually assuming a position. Yes, if it's 10 and 10 plus 300 pounds, it doesn't make a difference. I'm saying if you actually have this person, if you respect the integrity of the game and have this person owning a position, it's harder to play that way. I'd rather just play 10.
Says the person respecting the integrity of the game by playing with one less person. But that wasn't the deal. The deal was who would win, and I would win with 11 people if one of them was a large person, faster than you would win with 10 people, all just, regular soccer players.
You're not respecting the integrity of the question, but I would still look. There will be arguments on your team.
Well, I will say you actually brought up, you talk about why we're going to win. This opens up the toolbox in terms of strategy, because you thought that it'd be like putting a cow there to eat the grass. Let me tell you, Keith, I am building an attack, right? Say I'm building an attack through the middle, right? And I get the ball over to my left flank, and over on the right side, I got my 11th player.
Stop it.
I got my 11th player down on just down on the turf having a little snack. You're going to tell me that you're going to be able to focus on the ball and stopping my burgeoning attack when I've got a grass eater over on the left side, that your defense isn't going to be distracted? Boom. Easiest goal in the history of the sport. 1-0 to the side with 11.
So your supposition now is 10 plus a bovine will beat a team with a red card. Next topic.
What I said.
Next topic.
Well, so while we're on, if you thought it was going to get better for us, it certainly isn't. So something a lot of people are excited to do with the pandemic, Keith, right now that it's ending is
yeah,
travel.
I know. You could have skipped this story. You could have skipped this story.
No, we have to get your thoughts on this. Because look, according to you, there are certain people that have no value in society. And I again would like to point out that's not true.
When did I say that?
You'd rather have no one than a certain type of person.
No, I just said he's not going to make the team better. It's going to make the team worse. There's value. Everyone has value. Everyone has value. You don't want me on the bobsled team. You're better off being a person down in the bobsled team than me being there screaming like, "This is too fast! It's too fast! Slow it down!" I'm not helpful.
What sound do you think you would make in a bobsled?
I'm not going to do it again. The same sound I make on a roller coaster. I'll tell you that.
As we are opening travel back up, there are international airlines, Keith, that are upset at how Americans have behaved themselves during the pandemic, meaning essentially by putting on a few LBs to the point where they are now considering requiring, Keith, that passengers be weighed before they get on an aircraft, because apparently it's all about like balance and stuff. I don't know. Maybe that's why they make you weigh your luggage. What am I, some sort of aviation scientist? I don't know. I get on the plane and it goes up in the sky and then it comes down. And hopefully when it comes down at the proper pace and lands in the right location. But apparently it might not be able to do that if there are folks that are, too heavy. They throw off the distribution.
Do you want to see someone tell the truth about their weight? Get them right about before they're about to get into a helicopter and tell them they need to know exactly what their weight is, because these things go down. I have seen people who have never honestly disclosed their weight in their entire lives just fess up, right? I'm gonna be like, to the pound and admit, like, look, I had a Sunday after lunch. It might be 1 or 2 higher. Like, everyone gets real honest all of a sudden. Everyone gets real honest all of a sudden when they know that they're getting up on something that might be going like this if you get it wrong. So look, I mean, Americans are big. The problem is, though, then they strap us into these tiny seats. I got to tell you, I mean, you want me to tell you another sponsor we're not going to get? My wife just booked a trip on Spirit Airlines. I told her not to do it.
Probably didn't have to name the airline. I mean, I guess I didn't have to name Roy Rogers either.
Look, Spirit's a fine airline. It's the best value going. It'll get you. It's not a fine airline. It's not. But it's going to get you there safely and cheaply. But
you're half right.
Cheaply? Is that the one? So she did that. And she's like, oh, it's so much cheaper. I'm like, oh, you wait. Don't call me.
Full scorched earth in this episode. Should we just start picking groups of people and just offending them?
No, well, I'm not like this. This is not who I am. I'm actually a kind and considerate and inclusive kind of guy. So I don't know why you brought this out, because you were doing the rundown and you started, you know what it is? The way you started the show was so unneighborly and so unprofessional when you went right to this HR complaint.
No, and I was trying to enhance our professionalism. I think that the folks that choose to engage with Sportish as a podcast, right, that they when they click on a new episode, that they deserve a title that adheres to certain standards.
Well, wait till you see the title.
As I always am, Keith, I was looking out for everyone else, right?
Wait till you see the title of this episode.
I am inclusive, right? I think that anybody should be able to play soccer. I think anybody should be able to get on an airplane. I think anybody should be able to listen to Sportish. You are exclusive. You should only be able to do those things if they fit into your narrow definition
next time, you know what?
of what next a Sportish listener should be.
Next time we go fly in an airplane, I'm going to book us both on Southwest, and I'm going to pick the seat you're going to sit in. You'll see how much you'll enjoy that experience. I'm going to pick your middle seat next time we fly. All right. So we'll see exactly how inclusive you are. What's the name of this? You know what the name of this episode is? Sportish final episode.
This could be the last one. This would be what we would do if we were about to head on out. Okay, look, you have to tell the people about how Phil Simms' wife has dramatically impacted your life. Do you need, let's call it 7 minutes for that story?
No.
Or can we get,
No.
okay, good. Because before we get to that, I want to talk about the other big story in professional American football, which is that it looks like, and this could change in the 30 or whatever hours between when we record and when we air, it looks like Tim Tebow is going to be in the NFL next year. That
Thank
his
God.
college coach,
Literally,
Urban
thank God.
Meyer, as Tim Tebow, of course, a Florida Gator, as is Keith Strudler, at 33 years old and after a 4-year professional baseball career, Tim Tebow is finally going to do what many said he should have done when he was drafted, and that is convert to tight end. And it sounds like Urban Meyer is going to give him a shot.
So what's amazing? Look, there's a lot of serious topics that people are like, hey, why is it Tim Tebow and not Colin Kaepernick? And that's a longer, broad, and I don't know that I don't see them as equivalents, to be quite honest. And so
I agree.
And I wish we wouldn't go down that road. It doesn't always have to be the Colin Kaepernick conversation. That is a valuable conversation. This is something different. Urban Meyer clearly loves Tim Tebow. Like he is putting together his squad of people he wants to go into the bunker with. And that is his strategy. And Urban Meyer has won a lot more football games. Now, Urban Meyer's hasn't yet had to play the owner's 270-pound son.
Although Urban Meyer coaches a sport in which the owner's 270-pound son could be an asset.
So that's the one side. Now, what I don't understand about Tim Tebow, and I'm not the first person to bring this up. I mean, Tim Tebow now seems like he has the greatest life ever. Why is he giving all of this up to be kind of to maybe make it as a second string tight end on what is now an awful football team? Like, why would you be running back? Like he hasn't had success in the NFL. Like, why would you give that up? It's kind of like some of the guys that are like Gruden, like in the broadcast booth, he had a great gig. Why are you giving this up to go coach again? Like, I don't understand that. Like and I guess I'm just not wired that way. Like you and I have both said, when the giant contract comes for Sportish, we're not going to fight it. I mean, we do fine as it is, obviously. Thank you for the fans, of course. But when the big giant contract comes, we're not going to fight it. We're going to go along for the ride. We're not going to be like, no, put us back in the trenches. We just want to go into a crappy radio studio and do a show for 6 people. We're going to take it as it comes. Why would you fight success? I don't understand it.
I think it's tied to his identity, right? I think his identity is being a professional athlete. And so as much as you from the outside who does not feel that way can go, but why? You have the money and the platform and the whatever. I think to him, he's like, but all I want is to be a professional athlete. And so the other stuff doesn't so much matter to him as much as the way he identifies is as a professional athlete. And I personally I say play as long as you possibly can. Like, make them force you out. If someone's going to give you money to play a sport, whether it's as a AA baseball player or as a 4th string tight end in an NFL training camp or whatever, take it. Like, you got the rest of your life to go and be an accountant or whatever it is you want to do. Get paid. I have zero problem with him. And then there's this other school of thought, which is, but he's taking a spot from someone else. No, he's not. Because if he was taking a spot from somebody else, they would have the spot. The Jacksonville Jaguars are not in the business of making Tim Tebow happy. They're in the business of winning football games. And if they thought that other person could help them win football games more than Tim Tebow, they would pick him. This comes up in like golf tournaments when they have a celebrity come in on a spot. They're like, but that's taking someone's spot. No, it wasn't their spot to begin with. But otherwise they'd be in.
They are in the business of winning football games and making money in whichever order they like. They are running their organization. There's not some law that says everyone has to have a fair and equal shot at the NFL. I mean, this isn't how it works. That they are assembling the team that they'd like. And if they want to put Rodney Dangerfield on the team, I think he's no longer with us. Is he with us?
I don't believe so, but this has come up before and we've been wrong.
So I'm saying they can put whoever they want. Soupy Sales, who I know is not with us. I mean, they can put whoever they want on that team. They may not win games, and their fans will love Tim Tebow until they don't, right? And so, and the other thing I would say is, look, people will also say his legacy, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't matter because in the end of the day, he's Teflon.
Rodney Dangerfield passed in 2004.
It's been a while.
All right, Keith, it's time.
All right.
How did the spouse of NFL Hall of Fame quarterback Phil Simms affect your life this week?
So, as you know, a couple things. I live in Bergen County in New Jersey, a lovely area, surrounded by some very, some upscale towns and jurisdictions. So I also have a proclivity for losing my car keys. We're all familiar with that. I lost my car keys Saturday. This did not go well in my house because I lost my car keys before we were about to go to the NYCFC game. That was a problem because while I was able to take my wife's car, and by the way, I only have one key left, and it's the replacement key. So I'm running on fumes at this point, right? So I took my wife's car. Now that left my wife unable to go anywhere. You can imagine she wasn't really happy with me. She had to then take an Uber to a hair appointment. So she went to get her hair cut. Now, I'm not happy at her choice of haircut places because she's getting her hair cut at the same place that Phil Simms' wife is getting her hair cut. That cannot be an inexpensive venture. Phil Simms' wife lives a couple towns over. My wife is there, and she mentioned something about this story because I'm sure my wife is now bad-mouthing me in the hair salon, which, she has every right to do, I suppose, at this point, because I've stolen her car. And the person next to her is like, hey, we should pray to this God. There's some kind of like some saint of lost things. And my wife's like, oh, I don't know how that is. I'm Jewish. And she's like, oh, don't worry about it. And she looks it up, and Andra finds out who the saint is. And Phil Simms' wife goes, yes, that's it. You're absolutely going to find the key now. I promise, right? I promise, right? And it's a really lovely conversation. Phil Simms' wife leaves, and the hairdresser goes to my wife, you know that was? And she goes, no, I have no idea. She goes, that's Phil Simms' wife. And so Andra comes home, tells me the story. I go into the garage and immediately find the key. There is a direct correlation between me finding my car key and the saint for which Phil Simms' wife has preyed upon. It is I've never seen anything more direct in my life. So thank you to Phil Simms. Now, I was a little disappointed with my wife not getting Phil Simms' contact because you know who would be great on Sportish? Who is one of the few people that could oust Jay Friedman in the 2021 Guest of the Year. Definitely we make a charge for that. Phil Simms, my neighbor.
That's all the time we have for this episode of Sportish. If you made it to the end without us offending you, please tweet at us and tell us exactly how. We'll try to be better next time. For our producer, Mike Wallace, and Dr. Keith Strudler, who runs the director of the School of Communication and Media at Montclair State University.
You got plenty of time left. Yeah, I got plenty of time left now.
My name is Geoff Brault, but we won't once I tell people how they can watch archived versions of Sportish.
Hurry
they
up
can
then.
do it on YouTube. They can do it wherever podcasts are served, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, whatever. It doesn't matter to us. And they can also go to ftfnext.com where they can not only find our content, Keith, but also all of the great content that airs on For the Fans. So
Pickleball,
we have plenty of time to get all that in because you didn't rush me. You ready? You ready to be done with this episode?
Yes.
All right. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Sportish. See you next time.